The United Nations was established to bring peace and security. But it was realized very soon that peace must be more than an end to violent conflict, that it must include everything, ranging from health to education, to protection and preservation of the planet. To deprive people of access to healthcare, education, human rights is violence. To deprive people of access to healthy air, to healthy water, to healthy soil is violence. To deprive our future generations of a healthy future is violence. We cannot have security without sustainability. And additionally, much of that which leads to the lack of peace and insecurity isn't related only to public policy, but also to public opinion, public thoughts, public values, and public behavior. And this is where the role of faith and faith leaders and faith-based organizations and faith actors play such an important role. And the connection between the world of the United Nations and the world of faith has been so extraordinarily impactful, as has been spoken to already so powerfully this evening. On the most basic level, we know, of course, that faith leaders and faith organizations and faith communities are the best first responders in crises. They're the ones who show up first. They're the ones who stay the longest. And we also know the essential role that these communities play in the provision of care, whether it's health care, whether it's education, whether it's basic necessities. But on a deeper level, on the level so essential to actually co-creating this new normal that we speak about, to co-creating a world in which we are secure, not just well-armored, a world in which we are healthy, not just well-medicated. Entire belief systems, value systems, and behavior systems must change. People's thoughts, values, decisions, and behaviors are governed much more by what their faith tradition says than by the policies of their governments. It's said that faith can move mountains, and we always say that the mountains are great where they are, but we need the power of faith to move the minds and the behaviors of the people. And for example, as you've asked me so lovingly to speak about our Global Interfaith WASH Alliance, when we signed our first MOU with UNICEF in India in 2014, there were almost 600 million people in India defecating in the open, and almost 1,600 children under the age of 5 were dying every day simply due to lack of clean water, lack of sanitation, lack of hygiene. And so many organizations were building toilets, especially once the government of India launched the hugely successful Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the Clean India movement. The government was building them, the United Nations was building them, the Gates Foundation, Rotary International. So many people were building toilets. But in too many areas, people weren't using them. And they didn't use them sometimes because they thought that the idea of defecating in an enclosed space, and that too one that was so near to their homes or maybe even in their homes, was dirty or impure. Or maybe it was because they decided that this new beautiful cement or tiled room that was built by the government or an NGO and was so much nicer than any other room in their home was way too nice to defecate in. And so they used it to store grain or for so many other purposes. Or maybe they didn't use them because, as in a village in our Himalayas, They believed that the presence of the toilets had angered the village deity. And so therefore, the toilets must be to blame for this spate of monsoon-induced illnesses. And so took out sticks and broke all of the toilets, destroyed them, and forbade the government or any NGOs from building them again. But as an organization of faith leaders joining hands with UNICEF, with the United Nations, we were able to undertake what we called a Swachhata Kranti, a clean revolution. And through a series of intense and impassioned events and broadcasts across the nation, media training workshops and public service announcements and village community-led sanitation programs and so much widespread activation in this partnership, we were able to play a hugely significant role in helping to reduce the number of open defecators from almost 600 million in 2014, when we launched our first Worship to WASH Summit with UNICEF, to fewer than 50 million in January of 2020. And now, in continued partnership with the United Nations, we're harnessing this power of the United Nations with the united creations of faith to change the narrative, the taboos and the behaviors around menstruation, to ensure that girls get access to the education, the facilities, and the products that they need to be healthy and empowered around the time of their menstruation. And lastly, in a campaign unrelated to WASH, we were able to join hands with UNICEF to end early child marriage in Uttar Pradesh, the largest state of India. In a few months, we broke a Guinness Book of Records for the signatures that we collected of villagers to not get their children married. We've seen very up close and personal the incredible impact of joining together the United Nations and the United Creations. And we recognize more and more the need to use all of our tools, all of our strength, and all of our resources in seeing these SDGs come to fruition. So we hope that this marriage between the UN and the world of faith gets stronger, even deeper, and even more impactful over the coming years.